The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Community Forum is sponsored by the Easton Grange 196 and a friend of Yardley Wood Rink and the Easton Lions Club.
There's a storm across the valley. The clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. Today is October 6th, 2023. My name is Priscilla Almquist Olsen, your host, and it gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome back to the show Jamie Stebbins, council, who serves on the Select Council of Easton and doing an admirable job. And we're going to hear about that, what he does, how he does it, and what his vision is for the future for Easton. So welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. Thank you, Priscilla, for having me back after it's been 2 years.
I know, time flies, doesn't it?
It does, and we've done a lot.
I know, and you have been very busy. So tell us a little bit about your background to refresh people's recollection.
Sure. So, I ran for select board. It was back in 21, so spring of 21, and coming to Easton in 2009, and I've been raising a family here after about 11 years in the military, and then combined with some corporate work, and now been in the manufacturing sector for close to 20 years, and based out of Chicago. So I do a lot of time between consulting and then obviously at the office in Chicago and then office here in Easton too. Mm-hmm. So, between raising 3 children and working on the select board now and several committees like Green Communities Committee and Municipal Buildings Committee, Budget Subcommittee.
Well, I want you to, I'm going to have you back. Oh, we'll talk a little bit about the Green Communities, because Christina Refford, who's the chair, she's coming to the Grange in November and going to speak and share the projects and mission of the Green Communities Committee. So, okay, so you have been on the board for 2 years. And when you started, what was it like? Was there a learning curve?
There was. And I know I talked a little bit about it back then. It was a bit daunting. We were, myself and Jennifer Stacy were new, and having come from the finance committee, some of our mentors had told us, hey, you're going to find that learning curve straightens out pretty quickly because you know more than you realize. And while I found that to be true, there's so many wonderful things going on in town and so many projects and committees to be involved with that the curve continued to be pretty steep, but certainly have found my way, somewhat found my niche, especially with the Municipal Buildings Project. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things I'm excited to talk about today.
Okay, so let's talk about the Municipal Buildings Projects.
Yeah, so also known as the Public Safety and Public Works Project, and the website now is eastonpsw.com, mm-hmm. where everybody can go and learn. We continue to add answers to frequently asked questions out mm-hmm. there, and we really lay out nuts to bolts, everything going on with that project. So it's funny because 2 years ago when I sat with you and Jen and I had just been elected, one of your questions to me was, what do you want to work on? What is your goal, and what's going to be your passion with the select board? And I'd mentioned this municipal buildings project and said, look, we have this police, fire, and DPW that are between 50 and 70 years old that were built when our town was about 8,000 people, and today we're nearing 27,000 people. Programmatically inadequate, not safe environmentally, or the health of our employees. So there were all these things that I was passionate about, and having had spent quite a bit of time in those buildings with the finance committee, I was responsible for police, fire, and at the time we had dispatch and then paramedics. So spending a lot of time in those buildings, you learn real quickly the need for this project and that's why I've been so passionate about getting out there and number one, learning over the last 2 years, working with the project team, which meant the architects, the owners, project managers, and also working with the police chief, fire chief, director of DPW, who you know well, you know all of them well, between Chief Boone, Chief Alexander, and Director Field, and then Connor Reed, our town administrator, and the rest of the Municipal Buildings Committee.
So tell us the website that we go to in order to have our questions answered.
Yeah, that's
and why it's important.
So it's Easton PSW, which is like Papa Sierra Whiskey, so PSW, or Public Safety and Public Works. So eastonpsw.com. And it's so important because we lay out everything from the financial need to do this in terms of cost avoidance and what it would cost to continue to limp along with the buildings that we have today. The fact that 80% of our budget for municipal buildings goes into keeping these buildings up and running. And we have a tax calculator out there as well. So folks can take their assessed home value, plug it in, and learn what the project cost will ultimately be, for them.
Mm-hmm. Because that's been a concern, especially from senior citizens. I've been hearing a lot. So the information is very important. Now, I was told that some indebtedness that we've carried will be dropped, and so that the burden for these new buildings will not be as great as formerly anticipated. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, so you're right. Some of the debt will sunset on some of the school, projects. And that comes. I don't have the exact year in front of me right now, but that is true. And then we look at some of the things that we're doing too to try to help those, whether it's senior citizens or those on fixed budget incomes or folks who, need some assistance with, tax burden. So we're working on some programs there too to help offset the additional cost for folks.
Okay, is that information also in your on your website?
It is, and actually, so the two important dates that I'll talk about too. So we have two votes that need to happen for this project to continue. One being on Monday night, October 23rd at 7 p.m. at Oliver Ames. That is when the special town meeting will happen, and we have two warrant articles on the docket that night. One is for the appropriation of funds for this project, and the second is some work that Connor Reed's been doing with our state legislators to try to pass, I forget the exact name of it, but a circuit breaker, tax circuit breaker, so it would allow some money to come to citizens who need help when we initiate projects like this, where we increase or we do a debt exclusion and we're looking to offset tax burden. So that's the other article on there, is some of the work that Connor's doing, and again, our state legislators are working hard to help appropriate some funds to be able to help our citizenry out with that.
Well, I know Carol Doherty is always diligent in her representation of Easton. So
yes, and Walter Timilty as well on the Senate side.
Yeah,
So
well, she was president of the Teachers Association for the state. She's a retired teacher, so she's very detail-oriented.
Very, very much so. I really enjoy working with both Carol and Walter.
Yes. Oh, and Walter Timilty, right.
Yeah.
So this is so important, and for the viewers, October 23rd is going to happen in about 2.5 weeks. So put that on your calendar. Monday, October 23rd, 7 p.m. at the Oliver Ames High School. Show up, be there. But before you do, become informed. Don't just go there and say, oh, I'm going to vote against it because it's going to raise my taxes. No, go online, see how much it's going to be. So it might be inconsequential to you, and you would hate to vote against something that's so needed in our town without the facts. So get the facts, all right? Now, there have been videos on ECAT showing the deplorable conditions at the fire station, the police station, and the DPW. Now, I grew up here in Easton many years ago when I was a kid in the 50s, And let me tell you, that DPW has been around since then. All right, so it's over, well, they say over 70, but I bet you it's older than that.
Yeah.
So, and there's asbestos in different places, and we know how dangerous that is. But there are more important issues too, especially regarding the space that's available. So when my mother was growing up in Easton, there was one police officer, and there was the police office was on Mechanic Street in a little building with one jail cell. And now it's a lawyer's office. And then when I was growing up, there were only 6 or 7 police officers. Today, how many are there? There's multiple
Officers.
It's got to be 40 plus.
38, between 38 and 40. So
right.
Yeah.
So it's different, and the space that the spaces available are not appropriate for the number of personnel that we have. But there are other issues too.
But you brought up a good point, which was to go to the website where we've also linked those ECAT videos. So folks, if they're on eastonpsw.com, can go and do the tours of these buildings, which if you can do it in person, I highly recommend that. And the town folks, are available. Both chiefs will make time, as well as Director Field, to have people come in and tour these facilities in person, because there really is no better way to learn what it is that we're talking about, from the lack of programmatic needs, the lack of space. When we talk about it on the police side, it's the inability to maintain records appropriately. So we have waivers with the state in a number of areas because we cannot meet the requirements to safeguard whether it's, again, records or anything that's been impounded. So any thing that's brought in during an investigation, we've run out of space to do that. And the working space doesn't exist either. We've got detectives in closets, literally taking up a closet space to have an office and a desk. Same thing over at DPW. We've got people in closet spaces because they need somewhere to sit down and write a report, do work. Our deputy chief's office is also storage. So bunked all around him are boxes and, so we've run out of the space. And the other thing is, we think about how the force has changed since these buildings were built. You didn't have women in the services like you do today. So we've hired this year 4 females between fire and police. And on the fire side, these folks have to live and sleep in these quarters. So we're actively trying to, create space for women firefighters, women police officers, locker room space. It is not a comfortable building for really either, and we're doing our best, but that becomes a recruitment issue too. When we want the best, we want a force that is professional and wants to be here in Easton, and we lose out to some of our surrounding communities like Mansfield, who's built a brand new municipal facility and is able to recruit over us, if all things being equal.
And I understand that you went to Mansfield and checked out their brand spanking new facility.
We did. And
Very impressive.
Yes, and we toured several. It wasn't just Mansfield. Plainville had a brand new fire department, which is actually where Chief Justin Alexander came from. So he has experience in building out new buildings and knows what to look out, what pitfalls to avoid, knows how to certainly save where we can, and then knows what programmatically is absolutely required. So he has been a subject matter expert for us as we've gone through the planning, and we're actually utilizing the same architects as did the Mansfield complex. So a lot of experience. In fact, that architect lives here in town as well. So it's been a real win-win for us. We have the same owner's project manager, PMA, that did the Blanche Ames School.
Oh, good.
Which came in as, happy to say, $10 million under budget. Especially imagine coming through COVID and pulling that off, and on time, right? And students in seats when we said they would be, which was in January of 2022, right? So,
right, that was amazing that it came in on time.
Yes,
as
on time
promised,
and under budget, right?
And under budget, yeah. So hopefully we'll have an under budget situation here too.
Yeah, while it's not something we can promise, I will tell you that when you look at that number, it's it's conservative in that we make sure we're not coming back to voters. And quite frankly, you can't. Once we pass the appropriation of funds required for this project, which is going to happen is going to be asked of the citizenry at special town meeting on October 23rd, you can't go back and ask for more. Mm-hmm. That starts the whole process over again. So you're careful in that you carry contingency costs, which we've done, which is significant, with the hope that, like Blanche Ames, yes, we could come in under that.
So what happens on November 4th?
So then November 4th is the other really important date. So two votes have to happen to move this project forward. First one we talked about, October 23rd, 7 p.m., Oliver Ames special town meeting. The article has to pass. Second is you have to come out to vote. So now you have a vote for debt exclusion. So much like you would come out to vote for any of your elected officials, on the docket that day will just be this. It'll be a yes or no vote. Yes will mean you are for moving forward with the project to include the debt exclusion requirements, or no, you're not. And so those two have to pass.
In order for this project to go forward.
In order for the project to go forward. So October 23rd, November 4th. And you're right, November 4th being a Saturday.
Right.
It'll be another 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Oliver Ames. You'll go to your normal precinct and vote, just as you would during a normal election.
Right, right. And I think it's wonderful that Easton has adopted Saturday as a voting day. It's about time.
It's made it a lot easier on folks that travel for work, selfishly, but any of us that are at work, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is not easy, right, to juggle getting out there to exercise our right, which you're right. Saturday, I really enjoy that too.
Yes, so thank you for coming, Jamie.
Thank you for having me. And again, October 23rd, special town meeting.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, Oliver Ames. And then on November 4th, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please come out and exercise your right to vote. And any information anyone needs about the project, please see the website, eastonpsw.com, and reach out, whether it's to Connor Reed, myself, any of the department heads. We will be happy to go through. I mean, we have lengthy presentations.
This is Priscilla Almquist Olsen, your host. Be well.
Community Forum is sponsored by the Easton Grange 196 and a friend of Yardley Wood Rink and the Easton Lions Club.